The state of New York actually started preserving the battlefield in the 1920s. People started getting concerned that this legacy was going to be lost as more and more development was starting to come to the area. And there was this movement around the 150th anniversary of the battles to commemorate it. So the state started buying up the land, but then in the early 1930s, the man who had been governor of New York, Franklin Roosevelt, had become president, and he still retained an interest in the site. And he was instrumental in helping it transition to being part of the National Park Service. We're standing right now very near our visitor center, and this location was chosen on a visit to the battlefield by Franklin Roosevelt as president. He thought the views here were very important and a good place to be able to tell people about the battles of Saratoga. My name is Garrett Cloer. I'm the program manager for interpretation and visitor experience here at Saratoga National Historical Park. We're currently standing at our battlefield unit, which is in the town of Stillwater, New York, the largest unit of the park, close to 3,000 acres here, where both battles of Saratoga took place on September 19th and October 7th of 1777. The British had been moving down from Canada since June, aiming to capture Albany. The idea was that they would meet other forces there and use Albany as an operating base to do other operations. Those operations never were defined because they didn't make it there due to the battles that took place here. The American forces fortified a very strong position about 2 miles to the south of where we're standing, which forced the British to come off of the road next to the river and the river that they had been using to move south. That led to 2 battles, as I mentioned, that took place here. The Battle of Freeman's Farm, which ended, despite being a very back and forth battle, ended with a British victory because they held the field at the end of the day. The Americans retreated back to their lines. Things stayed that way for a little over 2 weeks when the British situation was getting worse as we were getting closer to winter, as they were running out of things like food and men were starting to desert. So they needed to do something, and that something was to send a reconnaissance force out to look for a weakness at the American position that they were hoping to exploit. However, the Americans met them once again out in a couple of small wheat fields. The battle quickly fell back to the fortifications the British had built on the battlefields of Freeman's Farm. And the Americans were able to capture one of those battles. Benedict Arnold ultimately leads a charge around the left end of the German defenses with Burgoyne's army. And once the Americans captured that position, the British couldn't stay here any longer. That started a short retreat. They made it about 8 miles back to the modern-day villages of Schuylerville and Victory, New York. Ultimately, after a few days of siege, the British will begin negotiations and surrender. This is going to be the first time in history that an entire British army like this surrenders at one time. So it was a very important moment. It really reinvigorated the American cause at a time where things had been going quite badly for them for the past few months. And it also was a key step in convincing the French to formally recognize American independence and bring their support out of the shadows and into the public. So it ends up being a very important moment because it helps transform the American Revolution from a mere colonial rebellion into a world war. So we're very excited here as we're coming up to the 250th anniversary of the battles in 2027. So we still have a little bit of time, but we're working on putting together a very robust series of events that really will be celebrating anniversaries and commemorating those anniversaries throughout the year of 2027. But the primary period will be in September and October as we celebrate and commemorate the anniversaries of the battles. We're planning a large ceremony with music and speakers and things like that to commemorate the first battle. And then we're going to be working very closely with partners in Saratoga County for the commemoration of the second battle and the surrender in early October. So we expect we're going to have a really exciting series of events for people to come up and just walk the grounds where men sacrificed so much in the creation of the United States, to walk in those steps and remember remember what they did here. So one of the highlights for a lot of people when they come to the park is at tour stop number 7. This is the German fortified camp that Major General Benedict Arnold courageously captured with a charge around the left end of those defenses. As he was doing so, he was wounded in the leg, and in the 1870s, people who were interested in the park and starting to put up the first monuments to what had happened here, one of those men, a guy named De Peyster, decided that Benedict Arnold deserved to be honored for his actions at Saratoga. Of course, in the intervening years, he had betrayed the cause, he had taken up arms against the Americans, and so nobody wanted to honor him specifically. So the compromise was to put up a statue to his boot. It has a wonderful, very passive-aggressive inscription on the back, which I encourage everyone to come and check out, and I hope you'll get a good laugh about it. I certainly do. Outside of the battlefield unit itself, again, I mentioned, the battlefield unit is the largest and the most visited, but we do have 4 smaller units that are located about 8 miles to the north of us. And those are the estate of Philip Schuyler, a portion of it. We have the Saratoga Monument, we have Victory Woods, and we have the Saratoga Surrender Site. The Schuyler Estate has a historic house that you can visit on the weekends during the summer months, and you can also come and get some exercise climbing the 188 steps to the top of the Saratoga Monument during the summer on weekends as well.